turn off your camera.
Thank you so much. So let me see. And Erika, if you can just be on the lookout for people that show up so we can let them in.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ernesto Durán. I am with the Ventura County Office of Education, part of the bigger system of support for California, as part of the expanded learning region of system of support in California. We are in Region 8, and I'll briefly discuss what the system and the county and regional support system of support looks like. But today I'm joined here with Joanna Hurtado and Erika Fernandez Zamora, who will have an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves. But anyhow, welcome to everyone here this afternoon. So the agenda for today is kind of an overview of you know who we are as a system of support, as I mentioned earlier, as a regional office, county office, and the bigger picture, what we do as far as our role in the system of support for expanded learning, compliance-wise, TA-wise, technical assistance-wise, and beyond what we're tasked to do, which is kind of the purpose of today's presentation, is to show you the vision of this office in making sure that children have children and families have the resources they need during and post COVID. But this is something that we had thought about even prior to COVID. COVID just sort of rushed us to get this project underway, which is still in the development phases as we're kind of polishing out some details. But we'll be going over the vision, who our Family Liaisons are. I'm very blessed to work with two really strong women that joined our team this year, who I know very well, and will have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about them. Kind of the overall overview of the project, the why of the project, some of our initial observations that you are all familiar with. This is not something that we haven't heard before, but there are certain areas that we'll be definitely working on. I'm not sure that we'll break up into groups since it's a smaller group today. We'll probably have a conversation together, and we have some questions that we have prepared for us to serve as guidelines to have a discussion, and then we'll conclude with next steps, is what we'll be attempting to do here at the county office and regional office, and then what are some of your own goals and ideas as you hear our presentation. For some of you who aren't familiar with expanded learning, I know some of you are, most of you are, but for those that are not very familiar with expanded learning, Proposition 49 was passed back in 2002. And what it did is it funded Title I schools with monies to provide after-school programs. We call them now expanded learning programs, with about $150 million in funding that provide services to over 1 million students these days. And I'm guesstimating the amount of kids. We were at 900,000 not long ago, but I'm sure it's close to 1 million in about 3,800 schools in 16 regions in California. We are Region 8, which encompasses the counties there that you see: San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Kern counties. We're in 52 school districts that provide services to about 30,000 students in 272 schools in our region. And sort of what our role is beyond compliance and technical assistance is again, the purpose of today's presentation, but just briefly, we are tasked with providing compliance support for those districts, the 52 school districts that receive monies to provide after school care and services to students. As Michael Funk would say, it's a very transactional job because, you know, and Dr. Amy Cranston knows this, we've purposely focused on the fiscal part for the last 3-4 years. Even when Dr. Cranston was our director here, we made it a point to really ensure that the tax dollars were being utilized and maximized to its full potential so that it would meet the needs of our students. And the technical assistance component was really focused around ensuring that everybody was fiscally compliant so that then they can build a solid foundation to provide the quality of services that we want children to receive. And so therefore, for the last 3 or 4 years, our emphasis has been around fiscal. Now, what that has done for us in the last year, for example, is that we have purposely focused on areas beyond compliance. And as an example of that, we restructured the department, our county office department, to really hire subject matter experts, consultants. Dr. Cranston's one of them. Erika Fernandez is one of them. Joanna Hurtado is one of them. Of the many, we have, I think, 6 or 7 consultants that are, like I said, subject matter experts around key areas that we felt needed to be addressed beyond compliance. One of them is the family engagement component, which is really under the umbrella of social emotional learning. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with SEL. SEL is so broad, but so important. And for us, addressing the SEL needs of our students is key and crucial. And the family liaison component is one of those elements that we definitely needed to embed as part of our regional technical assistance support. And really the bigger vision of why we decided to bring 2 family liaison experts to our team was really to address the needs of the communities in our region and really help our districts be a lot more intentional and strategic in designing programs that are culturally responsive, that are equitable as far as access, and that are relevant as far as resources around the areas that that we feel are most important, which are the social emotional development of our students. As evidence of the importance of that, when Dr. Cranston retired, quote unquote retired, she went on to lead SEL for California, which is a statewide organization that focuses on advocacy for anything around SEL in supporting organizations and schools to really push for SEL programming at all levels, not just within our school system, but even outside of our school system. So we're happy to have her here today. So meeting the needs of the region beyond compliance and technical assistance is key. It's not a very traditional approach for a county office, especially for a county office and a regional team, to embed family liaisons as part of the system of support. And so although I've heard from many folks that it's innovative, that it's something to be highlighted, I do agree with the latter part of that, in that it needs to be highlighted only because it's necessary and it's key. And we need to have a system that really addresses the needs of our communities. And we felt that by incorporating somebody like Erika and somebody like Joanna, we would be moving one step forward in that direction, because not only do they understand, but they grew up in our communities. They represent our communities. In the case of Erika, she is an immigrant from Zamora, Michoacan. And she'll tell you a little bit about her story, who came here as a child, but went through our system educational system and understands how it works, what are some of the pluses and the deficiencies in our system, particularly as an immigrant student and child who was learning to navigate the system. And myself, I came from Mexico City when I was a teenager. And in the case of Joanna Hurtado, who came as an adult, but is raising two high school kids and is, again, immigrant herself who lives in our community, who doesn't have a formal education, is something that we're very proud of, because one, our county office was willing to make some structural changes in our philosophy as far as what qualifies a person to work at a county office level. Because, and I'll say it openly, it is kind of an elitist system, in that if you don't have a bachelor's degree or any sort of formal certifications, you're not then you're excluded from being considered to work, particularly in an educational setting like the county office. And we are very lucky to have had the support of our county, of our previous leader who's no longer with us, but the continued support from current leadership to have somebody like Joanna, who doesn't have a formal education, but has all the experience in the world to really represent and help us by guiding us and tell us what the community is saying, what the community needs, what the families are going through. Because it's one thing for a family to communicate directly with the school, with district administration, and even with a county office folks, people that wear a suit like me. It's not, sometimes families don't feel comfortable sharing or calling. And so we wanted to really have somebody in our county, in our regional office, and even at the state level, represent our families. And we feel that through Joanna and Erika, we could definitely achieve that. So it is very non-traditional, but we needed a non-traditional response to a traditional problem, right? And that is that we really need to look at other options. We need to look at different ways of addressing the pandemic, because the pandemic, what it taught us, and this is something that Dr. Cranston and I always discuss, that life is not linear. You can plan everything, but it'll throw you a curveball, and you have to be able to respond in ways that you didn't think. And you know, unfortunately for families, they don't have for many families, they don't have the resources to address what's happening. And this is sort of the purpose of the conversation, is to talk about what we know are the needs, but what are some of the things, what are some of the areas that we really need to be looking at as far as making sure that the services we provide are addressing the big three letters today, right? DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that we are being inclusive, that we're being equitable, and that we're addressing the diverse needs of not just ethnic communities, but of communities as a whole. And so for me, again, I'm so lucky to be able to work with, like I said, two very strong and powerful women. One who I've known since she was a kid, and I still call her Mija, but she's married now, and she's a woman, but I still see her as the Erika I met when she was in high school, and somebody that I remember, and she'll tell you the brief story of how we met. But I was in grad school at UCLA when I met Erika through the Migrant Student Leadership Institute program. And the minute I met Erika, I knew she was destined to do amazing things, great things. And I am so happy and so blessed to be able to have an opportunity to work with her. I do remember telling Erika at some point years ago that we were going to end up working together in some capacity. And when I was promoted to my current position, and had an opportunity to restructure my own department, I immediately thought of Erika as somebody that I wanted to join our team, and I'm so happy that that happened. So I'll turn it over to Erika, and then she'll introduce Joanna Hurtado.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know there is lots of options, and so it means a lot for us to have you present today. And so just a little bit about me. We're going to have an opportunity to have a discussion, but my name is Erika Fernandez Zamora. I'm a proud daughter of farm workers and a former farm worker myself. I'm an immigrant from Mexico, and I grew up in Oxnard, California, in a farm worker community where my parents worked after we migrated to the United States. And I was educated in most of my life in the public school systems, both in Mexico and the United States, until I went to college. I benefited from Saturday after school classes and summer classes as an English language learner. And as a migrant student, I benefited from after school programs, but I also was able to work with Ernesto in the same elementary school that I attended when I have arrived to the United States. So it has been a full circle. I have graduated with a double major from Stanford, and I have also done a master's in policy and education, also the Stanford Graduate School of Education. And my first job after my master's program was working at the U.S. Department of Education, the Office for Civil Rights, and during the Obama administration. And for a child of immigrants and an immigrant myself, and as an English language learner, to be able to do that, it only shows the opportunities that we can offer for children that grew up like me, or they're growing up like me. And so since then, I have spoken, presented, and trained parents, educators, and students about the importance of education, the challenges and the opportunities. And today I just feel very honored to present my colleague, Joanna Hurtado, that she is one of those parents that inspire us to continue making the educational system better. And for me, it's an honor to be able to work with someone who values education and who wants to do the best thing for her children. But not only that, she wants to make sure that other parents are able to navigate the system in a way that it's empowering, and that it's not and that it's understandable for them, because for her, she has experienced that could other parents benefit, and that we can change. And so it is an honor to invite Joanna. And Joanna, please take the microphone.
Hola, buenas tardes. Gracias por invitarme. Estoy un poquito nerviosa porque no estoy acostumbrada a hablar en cámara. Siempre mis pláticas son con mi comunidad, con mi gente, yo le digo. Pero muchas gracias por darme esta oportunidad, porque puedo ser la voz de esas personas que no se atreven a hablar. Y como me dijo Erika Fernandez, si no estás en el, si no eres, ¿cómo me dijiste? Si no estás en el, me dice una frase.
Si no eres,
ayúdame, Erika.
Si no estás en la mesa, eres
Estás
parte
en el
del
menú.
menú. If you're not on the table, you're on the menu.
Y gracias por darme la oportunidad de también hablar en español. Erika va a traducir por mí, pero si tienen una pregunta en inglés, yo hablo inglés, pero pensamos hacer esto como más, enriquecerlo más con este hermoso idioma que es el español. Yo soy de Chihuahua, México, y vine hace 10 años a este país con mis 2 hijos. Uno de mis hijos es autista, lo cual me ha permitido aprender a navegar en este sistema de educación, que al principio fue complicado, pero hemos salido avantes, hemos logrado ayudar mucho a Diego, gracias a mucha gente que participó en eso. Y mi hijo le está yendo muy bien en la escuela aquí en este país. Y mis hijos se han beneficiado muchísimo de los programas de después de escuela o de actividades extracurriculares. Yo tengo mucho que agradecer a estos programas, y ahora de cierta manera estoy trabajando con ellos y me siento muy orgullosa de eso. de estar trabajando aquí, de ser la voz de la comunidad y de poder ayudarlos, de poder encauzar todas sus dudas, todas sus preguntas, sus inquietudes, y agradezco esta oportunidad. Gracias, Ernesto. Gracias, Erika.
And good afternoon. And Joanna shared in Spanish, and she said that it was wonderful that she's able to understand. So if you do have any questions, I make sure you ask them. But she also wanted to be able to make this presentation rich by sharing the beautiful language of Spanish, and as part of being inclusive, and to also include diversity. So what she wanted us to know is that she has two children in high school, and one of them has autism, and she has been able to navigate the education system, but she also she's thankful that she has been able to benefit from some of the programs from extended learning and extracurricular activities that her children have been able to do, and that she's grateful to be able to share her experiences. And she also said she was a little nervous, and I didn't start her with that because I think she actually is pretty natural, and I'm very proud of her. So that's not what she said, but I am adding that. She said she was pretty nervous, but that she feels comfortable actually speaking with that community, and this is not one of the things she's been doing. So she acknowledged she was nervous, but that she's happy to be here. And that if you do have questions, again, to be able to ask them, and she understands. With that, we're going to continue with the presentation. Y si tienen preguntas, por favor, en inglés o en español o portugués. Creo que son los únicos idiomas que, no, the only three languages that we can speak. So here we go.
That you can speak. I only speak two.
Okay. So the overview of the project, we wanted to, as Ernesto already mentioned, we wanted to be able to understand as family liaisons. And this opportunity came out of a dream and vision of continue doing the work, but actually connecting with the communities that we have worked. And for me, it is a privilege to be able to be part of this team, because as someone who benefited from many of these programs, I've realized the importance of making them culturally and linguistically appropriate for the communities that we work. And so as part of the project and part of what we'll be doing, we design our own instrument of questions that we would like to know and get a holistic idea of the different parents, and also the parents and also the students that benefit from extended programs, and that those will be the main audience. And what we would like to understand from the different families at the different districts throughout the region is the social, emotional, and economic impacts. And like Ernesto mentioned, this was thought before the pandemic, but some of you could imagine that for some of the families that we work with, this have only gone worse, or has become even a bigger problem for some of our communities on the three aspects, which would be the social, emotional, and economic. And so as Ernesto mentioned, right now, we are gonna share a little bit of the initial observations of the people that Joanna and I have been able to discuss. But I think the overall and takeaways is that this pandemic has shown us that the gaps, the lacks, and also the opportunities for us to be able to reinvent something that it worked for some people, but it hasn't worked for everyone. And I know that this is a phrase used in the educational system that I think we need to continue, is that one size doesn't fit all, and that we need to continue figuring out what's the best way for us to adapt to the changes, especially when we are forced to adapt in a way that not everyone it's capable or has the access to be successful in that. So we would like to continue that discussion, but one of the things I'm gonna summarize of what we've seen is that there has been social impacts that are continuing to impact the communities that we're serving. But one of the most is the emotional impacts that some of our community members have to deal with throughout the pandemic. And Joanna is gonna talk a little bit about that, and also the economic. Some of our communities live in places where they were already struggling financially, where there were living conditions. And when we think of these things, is how do we expect children to learn when they're just surviving, when they just have enough food on the table, when their parents are not being able to provide because of they lost their jobs, or because one of the parents had to stop working to take care of the children when the school shut down. So we're gonna continue give you an overview of the challenges, the needs and opportunities, and I will pass it on to Joanna. And again, I will be interpreting after she speaks, but if you do understand and have any questions, please write them on the chat and we'll address them as we continue with the presentation.
I've been talking to some families and they have a lot of problems like language. Es en español, ¿verdad? Perdón, estoy muy nerviosa.
Como tú quieras, tú practícale.
No,
Spanglés.
Ay, Dios mío.
Whatever you want.
Ellos me comentan que tienen problemas pues con respecto a la tecnología. El internet a veces está muy lento y los niños ahí están perdiendo clases, están perdiendo conocimiento muy importante y les ponen faltas en la escuela. También este sistema fue diseñado tal vez de una forma muy rápida, el sistema de aprendizaje a distancia, y muchos niños no se han adaptado y entre ellos está mi hija. Se frustran porque no pueden avanzar en ciertas tareas y avientan la computadora y eso les está causando que se atrasen muchísimo en la escuela y eso les causa ansiedad, les causa problemas de depresión. Hay niños que han intentado suicidarse, hay niños, es que un niño necesita socializar. Un niño para estar sano necesita eso, estar afuera en la escuela con los niños. Y desafortunadamente la pandemia nos quitó eso. Y aparte de no poder adaptarse bien a este sistema de aprendizaje, los ha hecho que se depriman, que se quieran lastimar. Hay niños que incluso lo han llevado a cabo. Y pues es lamentable, ¿verdad?, ver lo que está pasando con nuestros niños. Y también hay familias que están enfrentando el problema del lenguaje. Hay una familia que me comenta que ellos vinieron de México y su primer idioma no es el español. Entonces, ellos estaban bien con eso porque en la escuela hay muchos apoyos, pero cuando viene la pandemia, ellos se enfrentan a no saber usar bien una computadora y aparte las clases en inglés. Y los niños le preguntan a los papás, ¿cómo le hago? No estoy entendiendo. Y los papás tampoco entienden bien el idioma. No hay nadie que los ayude, que los oriente. Y pues esto a lo que ha llevado, lo que ha ocasionado es eso, que nuestros niños estén deprimidos, estén frustrados. Y esto es lo que más me comentan las familias también. Como un niño que vivía en una casa donde había 2 sueldos y pagaban su renta, de repente se enfrentan a que están en casa y un padre se tiene que quedar ahí, ya sea papá o mamá. Entonces se pierde un sueldo y dejaron de ser capaces de pagar su renta y se van a vivir con la tía, se van a vivir con la prima y hay como 6 niños en el mismo cuarto, todos estudiando y escuchando las voces. ¿Cómo se van a concentrar? Es muy difícil para ellos. Y ellos me dicen todo esto y veo la preocupación y veo que no saben qué va a pasar con sus niños, si están tristes. Pues eso es lo que estamos haciendo ahorita, tratar de dirigirlos para que puedan recibir todas las ayudas posibles y resolver esto. No totalmente, pero poquito a poquito nos vamos. Gracias, Erika, si puedes traducir por mí, por favor. Gracias.
Well, thank you, Joanna. Gracias, Joanna. She she shared a lot about what she's been hearing and hearing about families. And I took myself notes to make sure I don't forget. But if I do forget, Ernesto, Joanna, definitely feel free to add. One of the things that Joanna highlighted in the example that initially she gave is that there's families that have language barriers, that there is a specific family where the children, their first language is not Spanish, and therefore when the pandemic hit, they were not able to get the supports they would usually get in the schools that that they offer. She also talked about, parents having to, and children not being ready for this kind of change of what the pandemic caused. Everyone had to adapt to a system that was not thought through, and that everyone was just forced to kind of figure it out. And that's where there was some frustration and that was caused. And for some children, it was even depression and anxiety. And one of the things she alluded to is that, that depression and anxiety push some children to attempt suicide, to consider suicide. And we have heard from some that actually were successful in their attempts, and we have lost young children throughout the pandemic. So that's one of the things she also talked about. She also talked about the economic challenges of when children had two parents that were working, and then they were forced to one of the parents to stay at home because the schools were closed. How it pushed parents to not be able to have money for the rent, and therefore had to go and join another family in overcrowded conditions, where she mentioned that how would it be possible for sick children to be able to focus in one family, or like multiple families. And also, she also talked about the bandwidth of like some of like having not access for internet, especially when there was this need that went from not regular schools to online, and how some children did struggle in that because parents didn't understand, either because they didn't understand in English, or they also didn't understand the subject matter, how that became a frustration. And she did talk about how her daughter also has struggled with this change. ¿Algo más, Joanna? ¿O se me pasó algo que no interpreté? ¿O Ernesto?
Gracias.
Oh, I think you pretty much captured everything Joanna highlighted. I think the one element that these aren't things that we haven't heard before, right? I mean, this is something we've read in the news. This is something we've obviously have seen or have had conversations with administration, with teachers, with families. So unfortunately, it's not something that we haven't heard before, but it's what can we do to address these type of challenges, especially with the amount of money that is coming from the government. So we have about $4.6 billion in funding that will come from the government to be able to restructure, to be able to redesign, and be a lot more intentional in what we do with the monies. And that's why it's key for us at the regional office to hire folks like Joanna and Erika. And these aren't things that are required by the state. Amy can attest to that when we send our work plan to the Department of Education, all we have to do is make sure that we're reaching out to districts and ensuring that they have the supports that they need. But this isn't something that is required for us. And so what we're trying to do is really maximize the level of support that we can provide from a regional and county office standpoint in helping districts design and look at what they can do to maximize the money that's coming their way. And so for us to be able to have two key folks like Erika and Joanna is crucial, but is also needed, much needed, because we want to make sure that we're reaching out to districts beyond the compliance piece. Yeah.
And I want to go back to some of the other observations we have heard, and go deeper on some of them as to like the needs. Joanna did a great job talking about some of the main challenges, but within the challenges, the needs that came up or they're coming up. And again, this is not the final results. This is the preliminary just observations of what we're hearing. And then also we have, to Ernesto's point, the opportunity, especially when money's coming to these districts, to think outside the box and see what is it that we really need to innovate and create for the students and the educators and the parents, as we see, for us, we see the child as a whole, and the environment too. And so I'm just quickly gonna talk about another of the challenge that Joanna, and just go back to that part of those that were not ready for the changes, that children fell behind. They just couldn't catch up. Teachers also were overwhelmed. They were not able to help everyone. And so they needed to, wait. If they needed individual attention, they needed to wait until they had the class to provide that support to the children. And some teachers, we have heard, were not able to be supportive of the students that needed the extra help, because they were also overwhelmed by the situation. And some of those children will require, extra support, either with extended learning services or with summer school. One of the needs that we have been hearing is about access to professional support. And by professional support, it includes mental health. As Joanna mentioned, depression and anxiety. One of the examples I could share is that for a family that I talked to, is that, one of her children was doing well, because he used to have, get in trouble because of he was a little bit hyperactive, and, the teacher would always get him in trouble. And he thrived. He's thriving at home. But then her other child, she has 3 of these family that I'm referring to, started having issues socializing, and she started getting depressed. And one of the things that happened is that the younger one started cutting herself. And unfortunately, this same family, was not able to have access to care, because they're middle class, but, working middle class. And one of the things we have heard is that, they didn't have extra money to qualify for support, but they also didn't make enough money to be able to pay for someone to care for their children. So they had it, and they were forced to have their children alone during the time they had it to work. And even though some of the parents continue working, they still struggle, some of them risking their health. Like Joanna, she is also, she works as a nurse assistant, and similar to her story. And this is why it's so important to have people like Joanna that, they bring a perspective of a working family, and that we have to think that it's not just the child, it's not just the parents, it's not just the educators, it's not just one. It's like the collective and holistic of how do we see the children. And so those are some examples. Some families, like I said, have struggled with food. Some of them benefited from food banks. Some of them actually got support from the government, the federal government, with the stimulus. But unfortunately, we have mixed status families that were not able to benefit at the beginning of the pandemic, and that pushed a lot of them to be, even in worse situations prior to that pandemic. And so we do have a mix. We have a mix of families that are, are essential work in the fields, both in Kern County and also Ventura County even. And so, but they still is not enough for them to keep their children and their families afloat. So the gaps is that how can we support parents navigate something that themselves don't have an idea, and that they don't have the technology nor the hotspots, and that we have seen it in rural places like Kern. Yeah, everyone had to move to online services, but the internet, there's no internet access in rural California, and the children were expected to, be able to turn on the camera, to be able to participate. And that's when we talk about privilege, right? And that's why it's very important for us to think that in order for us to provide diversity, inclusion, and equity, we have to think about all these things that the children and their parents have to go through in order for them to create a thriving environment. And so, and also parents ask for opportunity to have support groups where they can talk about the challenges and what has worked for some parents to deal with children, especially when children cannot go outside or parents don't have the access to take them anywhere beyond just their neighborhood, because part of the children that we have there, they don't have access to cars, or or live pretty far from places where they could have access. In terms of the opportunities, and then we'll give you an opportunity for you to share, so get ready. One of the recommendations, and for this family that I mentioned, where they have 3 children with different needs, with different attitudes, and with different responses to the pandemic and the remote learning, they also they want, specifically the child that mentioned that she started cutting herself, actually started doing an after school program, and this is why it's the opportunity, and that really has given her more motivation and inspire, and she has the opportunity to focus her energy, and that has been really helpful for this. So the mother shared that she has seen a shift by giving her the opportunity to engage on something outside that, and that I was not part of that curriculum on that day. And the other things that they have discussed, meditation as a way to relax. Like I said, they would need more support groups. Some of them access to sports, and being able to do that, and for parents to be able to go back to work, because they do still need that financial support. And finally, it's like the opportunity to create and reinvent a new educational system that is supportive of the parents and children and educators' needs, especially when this happens. So all that to say, we're going to go back to our discussion, and then we would like to hear from you, because you have heard a lot from us. And so we want to hear from you, and I'm going to share my screen again, and I want to make sure that you are able to see the questions. And then once you see the questions, then I'll put them in the chat so that we can have a lively discussion. So I think we're like Ernesto said, we're a small group, so we're not gonna break up. That was the idea. It was to break up, and but actually we are gonna go around and introduce ourselves. I think we did have the opportunity to hear from some of you who joined early, so thank you. And then we'll do that, and while we go around, we can get ready to answer these questions. And if you feel really strongly about answering one question over the other ones, but you are welcome to engage in all of them. And we do have time, definitely plenty of time. So don't be shy. And we really want to hear from you, because part of the process that we want to do is to engage not only the parents in the process and through like surveys and interviews, but also focus groups, and also what you are also hearing, right? So it's very important what we're hearing that is now within the region, because ultimately what we are doing, we hope that is replicated across the state. And so with that, I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'm gonna open it up for discussion. But before that, if we can go around and introduce the people that are not the presenters. And so we'll start with Daisy, and then following with Margarita.
Okay, I remember you said that the questions were going to be there. Are we answering
Yes, but right now it's just introducing yourself so that we know who we're talking to and who we're hearing. So right now we're just gonna go around,
Okay,
and then get
perfect.
ready to answer the questions.
Okay, hold
So
on,
no, you're not on the spot. You're not on the spot. We're seeing if you're paying attention. If you're not, then go ahead,
Clearly.
Daisy.
Okay, so I am Daisy, pronoun she and ella for my Spanish speakers. And I am here at BCOE. Ernesto and Joanna are actually just a quick step away from my office. And I am part of the wellness centers. We are a new program here at BCOE doing wellness centers at high schools. It is focused on for peers by peers. So they're going to be leading a lot of the work. It's kind of setting the stage at this point. We started around December, January, but I didn't come on board until February. So it's a lot of groundwork, getting the wellness centers started, getting the peers recruited, getting our coordinators. So on site, we will have also a counselor/coordinator kind of managing the wellness centers and promoting and guiding the peers. So, but that is me. I am Daisy. If you have any more questions, I am here. But Joanna, you did awesome.
Thank you, Daisy. I'm going to use
Thank you,
also my
Daisy.
organizer hat, which is we're going to continue with Margarita and then Kristen, and then followed by Anthony. So pay attention so we don't do popcorn.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. And hello, Ernesto. I was in a morning workshop, the Compassionate Systems workshop with Ernesto. I got to hear your story, which was amazing. I want to commend everybody working in your team, Joanna, Erika. I shared that I did work with a parent liaison at a school in Los Angeles area. So that dynamic is amazing, and that role is very important and very key for parents in schools. And so I work with Think Together, sorry, no puedo hablar, Think Together, and I'm one of 4 family and community engagement coordinators supporting in the Los Angeles metro area, and we're supporting in different school, charter school cohorts in that parent engagement piece of it. So it's really great to be hearing all of your amazing work that you're doing, and can really reflect on the work that was done. So thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Erika, Ernesto, and your team. So glad to be here.
Thank you, Margarita. Kristen,
Gracias,
Anthony,
Margarita.
and then Rigoberto.
Hi, my name's Kristen Maida. I actually live in Thousand Oaks, and I've been a teacher for about 20 years. I'm not a teacher now, but I was. So I've taught in Oxnard High School District, Santa Paula High School District, and Conejo Valley. I have children who attend school in Thousand Oaks, and my daughter goes to Moore Park High School at Moore Park College, but we lived for many years in Santa Paula, so my son went to school there. My daughter's for a while, and my son's at Cal State Challenge. Anyway, I work now as an academic specialist for a science curriculum publisher, but I also am on the LCAP committee in Santa Paula and do a lot of social justice work. And I'm here today because I'm trying to collect ideas for my role in the LCAP committee as a community liaison or community participant, but also because I run a professional learning community through my job with STEM coordinators all over the state, and I'm trying to bring ideas back for them. But finally, I'm earning my educational doctorate, my doctorate in educational leadership, and actually my dissertation is revolving around community and parent engagement and how to involve families in an equitable way, and you capitalize on their assets rather than just having them sign the dotted line, like, here's our LCAP plan, sign on the line, here's our school site plan, sign on the line, but actually involving parents. And so this is one of the things that drove me to your workshop session.
Thank you, Kristen. We look forward to that discussion. Anthony and Rigoberto,
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Martinez. I am, like Margarita, with Think Together, Expanded Learning Program, a nonprofit organization based out of SoCal. A little bit of a debate in NorCal as well. I oversee San Gabriel Valley School Districts as well as the Palm Springs region. I grew up in Baldwin Park. I'm from that school district. My mom has been a teacher in that school district for over 20 years. Growing up as a kid, education meant a lot to me, not just because I was a teacher's kid. It was mostly because of what after school did for me and the amount of resources that it gave to me. So it's my privilege and my honor to give back to a community that I myself grew up in. I love to be a part of Think Together. I have great growth and experience with children. I was first a volunteer with just the program. I was kind of lost in the fog when I was in college, and Think Together brought a lot of vision and clarity to what I wanted to do and pursue in my career. And I then became a part-time employee with Think Together, serving the children on the field as a program leader. I became a supervisor at the school site that my mom actually worked at. So it was kind of cool to work side by side with her. And then I am now just like Margarita here, a family and community engagement coordinator for the San Gabriel Valley and Palm Springs. So it's an honor to be here amongst people who have that same passion, that same drive. I love the fact that you hold such value to your testimony, Erika. It makes me have vision for myself to be able to share that down the line as I grow older. And I'm here today to obviously understand and gain wisdom and experience from all the speakers and testimonies, but to also kind of expand the vision for my career too. I have a lot of, I guess you could say, options now that I'm very close to the Baldwin Park Unified School District. I think one of my goals is to potentially become a school liaison at one of these school sites, if not perhaps even finding a home within the district itself. So I'm here to gain that type of experience. And again, all the wisdom that I could get here. So Think Together is awesome. I'll pass it over. Are we just popcorning? Is that okay?
No.
Okay.
It's not okay.
Okay.
It's Rigoberto. No, Rigoberto
Okay,
is
Rigo.
next, Anna and Ashley, because we'll never finish and then people forget the name. So I'll just keep a track.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Erika. Rigoberto Lenes, I come from a migrant family. I came to the United States when I was 14, so I know the struggles of learning English. And so I'm still learning English. So I was a teacher's aide. I was a teacher, an assistant principal. Now I'm a director for the Migrant Education Program in Santa Clara County Office of Education. And so I have the great opportunity to work along liaisons, advocates, teachers to serve the San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Cruz, Santa Clara, San Benito, and Alameda counties with our migrant program. And like Kristen, I'm here to collect more ideas on how I can pass it on to our current liaisons. So it's great to be here.
Thank you, Rigoberto. And I'm also, an advocate for migrant program. Definitely changes life. Anna, Ashley, and then we'll finish with Dr. Cranston.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erika, and thank you, Joanna, for your presentation. I am Anna Hill. I'm also from Think Together. I apologize for not having my camera on today. I'm actually at a school site in Linwood. That's the region in Think Together that I support. For those of you who are familiar with the LACO regions, I'm region 11. And I'm really excited to be here. Also, like a lot of people here, just looking to find more ideas and also to hear some voices from our community about what they need, what they can do to support, the qualities that they can provide and kind of share with us at the school district and at the expanded learning program. And so that's definitely what I'm excited to hear from everybody, is to hear some more discussion and also kind of be a part of bringing this, what we're hearing today, to Think Together and to the expanded learning programs in Linwood, which is definitely most important to me, very proximal. I'm right here, I'm in it. So very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Hi everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes, okay. I briefly introduced myself before more people came into the Zoom call. My name is Ashley Lara. I am the Family and Community Engagement Coordinator for Riverside County. I am also from Think Together, so I have about 3 colleagues here from the same company. The reason I came to this workshop is also like Anna and Kristen to learn some more best practices of the Family Liaison. And I'm really excited to answer the question of what we do to promote diversity, equity, kind of like this question, inclusion in my region and in the regions we serve at Think Together. Let's see, what else did I miss? I started off working as a program leader in the organization, and I worked my way up to this new position. So I have a lot more opportunity and autonomy to serve the community and come up with new ideas, best practices to help our families that are in need. But I also have that experience of being the frontline staff and really working with the children. So listening to some of the stories you were saying about how students are really struggling today online and during the pandemic. You know, I understand, I can't imagine what they're going through right now. It's a lot harder than what we as adults may be going through because they're children and they're in that process of growing and they're missing those developmental experiences right now. But back to my point, I'm really excited to be here and be a part of this discussion.
And last but not least, Dr. Cranston, you want to introduce yourself? I know you already introduced yourself earlier. But...
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm not camera ready today, so I'm going to go incognito. Plus, I have about 10% left on my iPad here, and that's what I'm watching this on. I'm so proud of everyone. I don't even know if I'm allowed to be proud because it's not even, I don't have much to do with what you guys are doing, but I still feel very proud because Ernesto and I worked together for a long time, and I know Erika and Joanna, and you guys are killing it. And so this is so unique. And Kristen, I know you too. I don't know if you remember me. Yeah, we were on committees together and stuff. Yeah. And I saw the question you asked in the chat box, Kristen, about who are the actual parent liaisons. You're talking to them, Erika and Joanna. So this last year, as everyone knows, has been a weird and strange one, as Ashley just mentioned too. You know, with kids pretty much being out the whole year. So I think it's forced us all to kind of think outside the box and do things a little bit differently, and hopefully different is actually going to amount to better, I think, going forward. Nothing's the same in the world anymore, and maybe that's a good thing because it's forcing us to look at things through new and different eyes. And so I think what we're doing here with the parent liaisons is really unique and really powerful. And what some of you might be thinking, what I always think when I see these things is, yeah, this would be great. If only I had an Erika and a Joanna, it would be awesome. So we know that, you know, finding the right people are always key as well. But that's true with anything. So we're lucky because we found the right people.
Thank you. We definitely did not ask her to say that. So we appreciate that.
They did not.
And we're grateful for all your leadership, Dr. Cranston, and for really giving the opportunity and for paving the way for this important work. So definitely an honor to share the same space with you and all of you that are doing the work also in the field. So with that, is there any brave soul that wants to get started or break the ice with any of the questions or so that the best practice is going to happen among us. So definitely what works for us doesn't mean it works for all of you. And this is the opportunity for discussion. So maybe this is when we brainstorm ideas of what's working and parts of the state that we are not working in, but also we can share what it's, and definitely to your point, Christine, Joanna, it's lives in Santa Paula. And so those are the target communities around, along with the whole region 8. So we're gonna be doing a random sample of the different districts of the ones that we're covering. I don't know if you all paid attention at the beginning, but Ernesto is in charge of 3,800 districts in that region 8. So definitely that's why for us right now, it's like hearing from you guys. It's also going to be important for us to shape, because what works for urban areas not necessarily work for rural communities. So
yeah, and just yeah, thank you, Eric. And just to clarify, the purpose really is to support and to promote this model at the regional, county, and state level. So we have 30, I don't know, I put down 3,800 schools, but that's not 3,800 schools in the state, right, Amy? It's more than that.
And I said district, sorry, Ernesto.
No, that's okay. But anyhow, we have 52 school districts in our region, over 270 schools in the entire region. Ventura County happens to be part of our region, but although we're based at the county office, Ventura County Office of Education, our work is really regional, and we work closely with Michael Funk at the state level and the Department of Education Expanded Learning Division. So it's a broader system of support, and what the intent is for us to really advocate for a similar system, whatever it meets the needs of the school districts and the schools, but also support the expanded learning community in making ourselves available for anything that is needed around parent engagement and parent outreach and program design that meets these particular needs right now, but post-COVID as well. So yeah.
So can I ask a clarifying question real fast?
Of course.
So the work of the parent liaisons, is that when you talk about the work, it's stemming from DCOE, you guys are located in DCOE, but it's across the whole region. So are the parent liaisons working with parents from across the whole region, kind of collecting information? Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. Thank you.
Yes, we're interviewing parents regionally. We're starting to schedule collaboratives with school districts to make ourselves available to find out what is the best way that our office can be the hub for the region as far as the parent engagement and parent outreach, but really supporting districts in designing and ensuring that the monies they get are utilized in ways that they invest in parent liaisons or something similar around engagement, community engagement, because without the involvement of the parent liaison or a similar model, we won't really know what are the true needs of the community unless you hear directly from the community and involve the community in that design. The system, I always say that the system is already designed for parents to adapt to, and it shouldn't be that way. The system should be designed by parents so it works for parents and children. But we have put out a system for them to adapt to. So what we need to do is be inclusive, and hence it's so important that the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is a key component of any system, right? So that it's inclusive of parents' needs.
So then, I'm sorry, and you can stop me if I'm derailing you, Erika.
No, please.
But I just wanted to know, are you providing any kind of coaching or supports to districts or schools around how to involve parents in meaningful ways? Because I've been on a lot of LCAP committees and school site councils. And as I mentioned earlier, one of my frustrations is that it kind of feels like parents just show up to check a box, and that schools, not every school, of course, but a lot of times I feel like teachers and principals don't really understand how to work with parents and include them and actually include them, right? Actually include their ideas, actually and meaningfully include them instead of just kind of talking at them and then saying, yep, they showed up, we had parent involvement.
That's so important, Kristen, and thank you for saying that and asking that. And really, it's the vision, it's our vision, right? It's the vision of this regional office in ensuring that that it's not just checking off a box. You hear often with parent engagement, I heard it here, and Amy knows this, that I always used to say, what is this person from Alaska or Missouri know about working with our families here in the region, right? Like you need to ask the families directly. You need to bring people like Joanna from the community, right? That live in that community. Joanna works 2 jobs, and she has to make sure that she provides for her 2 children as a single mother. And so she tells me, unless I hear directly from folks like Joanna who are out there working, right, and so we won't know how to best meet the needs, and that's why Erika is so important as well, because she works directly with migrant families and has worked at a bigger system model. But yeah, that is the intent of this project, is to showcase what can be done, but also what are some of the strategies to be a lot more inclusive than just saying parent engagement, right? Than just saying we have a professional development offering and for teachers, but really where does that go after that?
I would like to add, and definitely not to take more space, but the idea that we want to promote, Kristen, is exactly, we want to be able to replicate, and hopefully other regions do that, because so in another, like I mentioned, I do work as an organizer, and I did do a master's in policy and education. So ultimately, want to make sure that any recommendations, any policies, or anything that happens in this, either at the local, regional, or state level, or even federal, the parents have a stake on it, and that they could make a decisions and based on what the children need, and not what the state wants the children to need. And so ultimately, it's gonna be, the goal is to have recommendations, if not hopefully policy recommendations, but that's part of the vision. And it's gonna definitely take some time, because what we're trying to change is decades of things that have worked for some, but not for a lot of the children that we are focusing in terms of extended learning. And no sé si quieras añadir algo, Joanna. I don't know if you want to add anything, and then we can dive into the questions.
No sé si ella dijo que iba a venir a la junta, pero bueno, que se iba a presentar. Pero ojalá me estés escuchando. Gina Ramírez, nuestra mejor amiga, murió de cáncer. Our best friend died from cancer a month ago. And Gina Ramírez from el Distrito de Santa Paula, she's helping her children to get counselors and tutorials, and she's doing a great job. Thank you, Gina Ramirez from Santa Paula. That's the great team. Thank you. I hope she's listening, or someone tells her. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Gracias, Joanna. And I think Kristen, Ernesto already answered, but yes, that's the ultimate goal. Again, as one size doesn't fit all, but we hope that they actually do a needs assessment of the communities based on the model that we're putting in together. And we're building it also research-based, because we know that we need to prove that it works, or that we are listening, and not just us trying to create equity, but really proving that the stories and the numbers show what they actually need. And so that's why it's a hybrid model of research by qualitative and quantitative. Anyone would like to answer any of the questions that are in the chat?
Yeah, please feel free. We have about 15 minutes left. So any question or anything that comes to mind, even if it's not being asked in the questions, but feel free to jump in and just tell us anything. Otherwise, I'll call on Daisy.
I was actually gonna email you if we can have a deeper dive into this conversation. So at a later time. I have too many questions for 15 minutes.
I can kind of speak on behalf of Think Together. I know Margarita, Anthony, and Anna are familiar with this practice that we do to meet the needs of our students, families, and community members. We send out a monthly family resource email or monthly parent resource email. I forgot the exact name, but we come together and we analyze the needs of our communities and regions. And we pick at least 3 topics to focus on. So for example, 1 month we focused on financial aid, mental health resources, and COVID vaccine sites. And we put those topics together in PDF format, and we compose it in an email, and then we send it out to our regions. And Anthony, Margarita, or Anna, you can add on to that if you'd like. But that's just a short summary of one of the practices we do.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll piggyback off you, Ashley. And Ashley, you're not giving yourself credit for something that you created yourself. But yeah, Ashley, Anna, Margarita, and I, we collaborate on a daily basis, weekly. And all these practices and projects that we are working on, we distribute across our different regions. That's why we're all here representing different ones. However, to answer the main question here on what are we doing to meet the needs of students, families, and community members, it's actually something that we kind of not see as a challenge, but it is such a unique approach because Think Together has in fact just created the Family Engagement Department within the organization. So our organization, our department and our team is very new. I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, and our team rolled out in November, this past November. So we are still developing and we're still, creating our projects and rolling out all of our systems. But like Ashley said, we're sending out monthly resource emails. Ashley herself, from her experience as a program leader on site, she saw the need that a lot of parents were approaching her and having conversations regarding some of the help that they need, whether it's food banks, a situation that the family is going through. Maybe the parents are going through a hard time, the family is facing, difficult discussions. Maybe there's even darker things like abuse and things like that, right? That's the reality of sometimes what families need to face. And so Ashley thought, it would be awesome if we can equip our program leaders with something that would serve as an instant solution when they're engaging in that conversation with the parents. So a parent shows up at 6 p.m. to pick up their student at their after school program with Think Together, and they approach Miss Ashley as a program leader and ask, hey, we're really struggling. They have that transparency and that vulnerability. Think Together wants to honor that. And so we want to take that extra strive to make sure that we're not just equipping ourselves, but equipping the frontline staff and making sure that they know how to address these issues. And so Ashley and the team decided to make something called the Program Leader Resource Page. And essentially what that is, it's a page that we've created that serves in 3 different areas that include food banks, free Wi-Fi centers, and health and health and wellness centers as well. We include QR codes, locations, descriptions, so that parents can easily access details, locations on where they can go to achieve those resources and really meet the needs that they are coming toward us with. I think, again, those are some of the things that we are doing right now. I think I would also want to address the third question here is what would be some of the challenges you and your team creating a model that incorporates a focus on diversity, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the challenge here is basically how I just let off my portion of the discussion here is we want to ensure that once we are back in I guess what people will call a normal back in person interaction at school sites, I guess what people are saying that would be a post-pandemic world is, once we've already established the resources, it's all about creating the relationships now, because as of right now, parents, site coordinators, and frontline staff just know Anthony Martinez, Ashley Laura, Anna Hill as their family and community engagement coordinator, but there's not a face to that person yet. And so I think that that's so important, so vital to make sure that this department will continue to have the momentum and the snowball effect in a nonprofit organization like Think Together. So I guess my question to you guys as experts in liaisons would be, you know, what are some of the first initiatives that have worked as a success to you when you're having that first interaction with your parents for the very first time, whether it's at a school site, a district, a meeting, anything like that? Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, Anthony, I think one thing we want to clarify is that this is a brand new addition to the team that Ernesto, with the support of and visionaries that created because they saw a need. So actually, this is the beginning of what we're hoping to create not only a list of resources, but to really be informed of the needs of the family. So that's gonna look differently from, like I mentioned, for each school district, for each region, depending on the needs. But what we're hoping is that it is informed and is not top down in any community. So our goal is to be able to find different things that support families and depending on the needs. So actually, we will not know that until we finish doing the focus groups and the analysis that we would like to do that. But do we know some of the major needs? Yes, and I talked a little bit about some of that is like mental health. They need like some parents need the support both financially, and I know that school districts are not going to be able to do that, but that they could, we can refer them to services that would support them in the process. So there is a lot of gaps that we're seeing, but again, that they're not the exhaust list. We still need to like continue figuring out. And so this is like a vision that it's developing. And so, and we look forward to be connected so that we see how we can, you know, how we, the project and the vision is developing as time goes. But it definitely took the advocacy and the visionary of people like Ernesto to really create something that wasn't there. And that's actually the biggest success, that Joanna and myself are able to be in a department where we are able to include not only my personal experience, but also my professional experience. And in the case of Joanna, her wealth of experience actually as a parent with children with special needs, like her son with autism, that she has to navigate, and that's something that we don't get. And so this is what we hope that other departments, other regions take the risk, and that it's not top down, that it's actually informed by those in the field. And I hope that answered your question.
I think the big topic here is learning loss, right? You hear with the COVID funding is how to address learning loss, but is really how to address mental health, how to address well-being of the children. And this is why we're such advocates of anything around social emotional learning. And like I said in the beginning, that's SEL is really the umbrella and kind of the key approach to addressing learning loss. And so we hope that through this sort of advocacy, that if we have if we create solid pillars around anything SEL, is that the learning will take place. And like I said in the workshop earlier, Margarita, in which you were in with Peter Sengen and Meta, you know, until I had some sort of consistency in my life as a child, I was not able to learn, and that was because I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel loved, and there was no stability in my life, and I was always learning, trying to learn under crisis. So I ran away from school all the way until I was 11 or 12 years old, and didn't learn how to read and write until I was 11 or 12. And it was until I came to this country at age 14 that I felt some sort of consistency, stability around financially, which is important, but also as a family, right? And that I felt safe, and that I felt like I had food at the table, and that I had all my basic needs met, like like Maslow says. And until then I was able to thrive academically. So although I was a late bloomer academically, I was able to do just fine in college, like anybody that has thrived academically. But it was because I had my needs met. And that's what we're really trying to tell the bigger system, is that until we address those needs, our kids who are now living in a crisis and are trying to learn in a crisis, until we address those basic needs, no learning is going to take place. And that's bottom line. And that's why we're dealing with depression. That's why we're dealing with suicide. That's why we're dealing with isolation, because food, shelter, right? Having mom and dad at home, or having one of them at home, having stability is not present right now. And again, we worry so much about learning, but it's your mental health. It's stability in life that we need to provide in a safe environment for children. So that's really, at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to advocate for, is that as a county office, as a regional office, and as a bigger system of support, larger system of support, that's the goal, is that the monies that come your way, as in this case, as a third-party provider for expanded learning, such as Think Together, or as a county office, or as a school district, that you really utilize the funding for systems like this one that incorporate the community in the design of the bigger picture.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you both. When I asked that question, it wasn't such an expectation to have such a direct answer, but it's also important for Think Together to understand where you guys are headed to. And it's very reassuring, honestly, to hear your responses, because it tells me that I, as a family and community engagement coordinator, along with my colleagues here, are in one accord and on the same wavelength, so to speak. So, and what you said, Ernesto, is absolutely correct, and it's accurate. I myself, I grew up in a broken home, and it's really is true. Like, no learning can really occur when you're living in crisis. So that little takeaway is very impactful for me. So thank you for your responses. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony. We have a few minutes left. Any last comments? We'll put up our information up on the screen, so you can reach out to us with our emails and phone numbers. Margarita, you had.
Sorry, no, I just, something that resonates with me is, as Anthony mentioned, we are a new department, and it's part of a multi-layer dynamic or team that we're working. Our focus is we're assisting with the part of parent engagement, but of course we're working with schools, individual schools, we're working with districts, and considering all of the different stakeholders that are part of that. And so we're learning right now, we are laying down the foundation, taking in a lot of that foundational information and doing the research, and working again with those frontline staff. So it's great to hear the work that you guys are doing, and it resonates with me, work that I've done in the past in Los Angeles. And it is very crucial and critical to involve that voice of the parents, the family, because they are also ultimately the first teachers, the ones that know, what's going on with their children. And again, suerte, good luck to you guys in your work. And it's very powerful to hear your stories and the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Margarita.
Well, we want to thank you everyone for joining our session. We know that there were so many other sessions that you could have joined and that you made the time. We do have some homework for you, but it seems that all of you are already interested in doing that. And so I think I give you a little sense of like what we were hoping for you to take away is like, and how are you planning to work directly with families and other educators to address the needs of students and their families? And what is your commitment after this presentation to create diversity, equity, and inclusion? And so I know some of you are already doing it. Some of us could do better in pushing the systems that we work with on taking more intentional work, and that the investment is actually invested on something that will bring support and create a thriving community. For some of us, we grew up in surviving mode, and it serves us to a certain extent, but when we're adults, or if we didn't learn about the emotional intelligence that we're capable of doing, it does it does show us in either on our education. And so we definitely need to take care of our basic needs to be able. And so with that, I'm gonna leave the contact information. I know Ernesto already posted there, but in case you have any questions, or thank you for coming, and it's been an honor to share the space with all of you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Our information is there if you want to reach out to us. We were a small group today, but how many, just real quick, think together, how many children do you serve as an organization?
Anthony?
What the I was gonna go to you, Anna.
Oh,
The
no.
updated number, I want to say, man, I'm over here checking out our website.
But
Oh,
yeah,
so about 52, nearly 53,000.
Yeah, see, so and so if you think about the people that are here in the workshop today, our county office serves about 30,000 students through expanded learning services, and 52,000, that's 80,000. It's, we're small but mighty as far as the level of support that we provide to children. And I'm sure Kristen, through her work with our local county school districts, Daisy, her work with her particular department here within the county office, and everybody else, Erika, not just through our county office, but also through the work that she does as an organizer outside of the county office. We really do get to impact a lot of children, a lot of families. And so thank you so much for being with us here today, and we look forward to ongoing collaboration.
Ernesto, I just worked with Jeff Hamlin last month on professional development around
Fabulous.
some family science night kits I
Jeff
gave
Hamlin is, we call him Jefe, we call him boss, because he's been here with us for such a long time, and he's still a consultant for us. So thank you for continuing to work with us. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye-bye. Erika and Joanna, can you stay?
Yeah. Can we stop the recording? Thank
Yes.
you.
I'll stop.